So hello and welcome everyone to this tutorial session. In this video, we will understand how we can use the list data type in Python. So we start off this video by understanding what is list in Python. After this, then we will discuss how we can implement indexing and slicing on list. Then we will understand how we can modify the elements of the list, and then we will also see how we can delete them. Next, we will discuss how we can use some common operators on list, and in the last we will discuss some of the built-in list methods that we can utilize for various operations. So without any further delay, let's jump on to our first topic and let's discuss about the list data type. So basically, list in Python is a compound data type that allows us to interact with various elements at the same time. So what is this compound data type? So a compound data type can be formed using basic types, and it is usually has its own set of characteristics as well. Now compound data type is also known as composite data type. So there are basically two categories of data types. One is the basic data type which comes with any programming language. For example, string is a basic data type, integer is a basic data type, float is there, boolean value is there. Now composite data types are the one which are created using the combination of these basic data types, or they can use other composite data types in them. So list is a composite data type. Now the main role of list is to store or hold a series of data, and this data can be of different type. Moreover, unlike string, a list data type is mutable, which means we can modify the list even after defining it. Now how we can define a list in Python? To define it, we simply need to specify multiple comma separated elements enclosed within the square brackets. So let us discuss an example on how we can declare and define a list in Python. So here you can see an example. So we will start with very basic. So to define an empty list, we only need to use this square brackets. So these square brackets are empty, no element is defined within them. So this will form an empty list. So empty underscore list will be an empty list. After this, how we can define a list with certain elements? So here you can see an example. We are defining this variable even numbers, and what we are defining within this variable, we have defined this list using the square brackets, and this list consists all even numbers starting from 2 to 16. With this, what we are doing, we are creating a list containing all integer values. In the same way, we can create a list containing all string values. So here you can see countries. So this is basically a list containing all string values. Now lists in Python are heterogeneous in nature. It means we can store any type of data within our list. So we can store strings, we can store integers, we can store boolean value, and we can even store some objects, Python objects. So here you can see an example related to heterogeneous list. So user underscore data is the name of this list variable. Then we have defined the square brackets. Within the square brackets, first is a string value, James. After this, we define an integer value, 28. Then again we have defined this manager, which is a string value. Then we have defined this float values 75.6, and in the last we have defined this boolean value, that is true. So if we execute this cell, now all these lists are declared. Now let's see how we can check the type of these declared variables. So for that, what we use the type function. So here I am using the type function within the print function, and in the type function I have passed the name of the each variable. So it will basically return the data type for each variable which we have created above. So if I execute this cell, here you can see it is return this thing, class list. So all the variables which are created above belongs to the list class. Now let us print the value of each list type variable. So if I execute this cell as well, here you can see. So empty list will print it out something like this, empty square brackets. Then we have defined the list containing all integer values. Then we have defined a list containing all string values. And in the last, we have defined a heterogeneous list. So with this, I hope it is clear how we can define and declare a list in Python. Now let's move to our next topic and let's start discussing how we can index and slice a list. So just like string and all other sequence data types, we can implement indexing as well as slicing on a list. Now indexing and slicing on a list will be executed in the same way as we have executed on strings in our previous tutorial session. So here you can see an implementation related to indexing. So here what we have done, first we have defined this names variable, and this names variable is a list type value containing all string type values. So James is the first value, Adam is the second, John is there, and Steve. Four string type value has been defined in this list. Then here you can see the index implementation. So as we discussed in the string section, each element can be indexed either using positive indexes or it can be indexed using negative indexes. So same rule is applied on list as well. If we talk about positive index, so James is at index 0. You all might remember that the index in Python always start with 0. So the element James is at index 0, then Adam is at index 1, John is at index 2, and Steve is at index 3. Now if I talk about negative indexes, so Steve is at index -1, John is at index -2, Adam is at index -3, and again James is at index -4. Now to index a list in Python, we need to specify the name of the list followed by the index value enclosed within the square brackets. So here you can see an example. So first we have defined this list name, which is names. Then we have defined this square brackets, and within the square brackets we have passed the index value that we want to assess. So the names at index 0 is James. So when we execute this cell or when we try to return this thing, James is the value we will get. In the same manner, if we try to fetch the element at index -1 in names variable, then we will get Steve. Now let us discuss an example related to that as well. So here you can see an example. In this example, what we have done first, we have defined countries variable. Now this variable holds list type data. Now within this list, we have defined certain string values. So it consists all country names. So United States is there, Canada is there, Germany, Spain, France is there. So let's try indexing on this countries variable. So here what we are doing, we are using the print function. Within the print function, we are trying to assess the first element. So to assess the first element, we need to assess the element given at index 0. So here we have defined countries, the name of the list, then the square brackets, and then within the square brackets, we have defined the 0 index. So it will return the very first element, United States. Then what we are doing, then we are using another print function to assess the last element. So to assess the last element, what we can do, we can use the negative index. So last element will be available at index -1. So here we have defined this countries variable, and then we have passed an index -1 to it. For this second print function, we will get France as our output. And in the last, what we are doing, we are using another print function to assess the element given at index 3. So we will pass index 3 to this indexing operator. So now if I execute this cell, here you can see the result. So first element is United States, last element is France, and element at index 3 is Germany. So if we look into this list, United States is at index 0, Canada is at index 1, United Kingdom is at index 2, and Germany is at index 3. So we got our result. Now just like indexing, we can also assess series of characters, series of elements from the list using slicing, and for this we need to use the slicing operator, which is colon. So here you can see an illustration related to slicing a list. So we have this same names list containing 4 string type elements. Now to slice the list, we first need to define 3 things within the indexing operator, which is the square brackets. So very first thing is the starting index. Then we need to define the colon, which is the slicing operator, and then in the last we need to define the ending index. Now here remember this ending element will be excluded from our result. So here you can see certain examples. So here what we are doing, we are slicing this name variable from index 0 to 2. So from 0 to 2, 2 will be excluded, it will return 2 values. So element at index 0 and element at index 1. So James and Adam will be our answer for this. In the same manner, we can also use negative indexes for slicing. So here what we are doing, we are slicing the name variable from index -3 to -1. So it will start from this -3 Adam is the first element, then it will jump on to the next index, which is -2. So John will be the next value, and -1 will be excluded. So this value will not be returned. Now, while using slicing, it is not always important to define the starting and the ending index. If we do not define that starting or ending index value, then it will start slicing from the starting element to the last element. So here you can see one example for this as well. So here we have defined only the starting index. So we want to start with index 1. After that we have used this colon, but then we didn't define the ending index. So it will start with the index 1, which is Adam, and then it will go till the very last, which is index 3, and the value of this index 3 is Steve. Now let's look at an example related to it. So here you can see the example. In this example also we are using the same countries list variable. Then what we are doing, very first we are slicing the countries variable from index 0 to 2. From 0 to 2, two elements will be returned, United States and Canada. Then we are slicing the variable from index 1 to -2. The element at index 1 is Canada, then it will go till -2. So -2 is Spain. So it will return all the elements starting from Canada, United Kingdoms, then Germany. Then Spain will be excluded from the result. After this, here you are looking at another type of example. Here we have defined only the starting index, and then we have defined colon. So it will start from the index 3 and then it will go till the last element. So the element at index 3 is Germany, and starting from Germany till the very end, all the elements will be returned. In the same way, we can also define only the ending index. So here you can see in this example, we have defined ending index as -2. So we first specified colon, then we define -2. So it will start indexing from the very first element and then it will stop at -2. So it will start from United States, then Canada, then United Kingdom, then Germany. So Spain is the element at -2. This will be excluded from the result. So let me execute this cell. So here you can see we got all the expected results. So slicing from element 0 to 2, United States and Canada. So in the same way we got the result for all the print statements. Now with this, I hope indexing and slicing both are clear to you. Now let's jump on to our next topic. Now unlike tuple and string, which are immutable, the list data type is mutable in nature. It simply means that we can modify the values or elements of the list even after it is defined. Now to change the element value in the list, we can use indexing, and we need to use the assignment operator to modify the element value. So let us understand this implementation with the help of an example. Now here you can see the example. First we have defined this list variable prime numbers. Now this prime numbers list consists all integer values. Now we have made one mistake here. The name of the variable is prime number, so it should hold only prime numbers, but when we look at the values, they all are even numbers. So let us understand how we can modify these values. Now to modify a single value, we can simply use the indexing in Python. So for example, I want to modify the value of the element given at index 1. So what I will do, I will specify the name of my list. Then I have defined this index. Then I'm using this assignment operator equal to sign and the value which I want to assign, which is 3. So when I execute this thing, the value at index 1 will be modified from 4 to 3. So let me execute this cell. So here you can see value at index 1 is now 3. So in the same fashion, we can use slicing to modify the value of multiple elements. So here you can see we have defined this list variable. Then we are using slicing, and then we started the slicing from index 2 till the very end, and then we have defined all the elements that we want. So it will start from this index 2. So value at index 2 will be 5, value at index 3 will be 7. So instead of 8, now we have defined 7. In the same fashion, instead of 10, we have defined 11. Instead of 12, we have defined 13. Instead of 14, we have defined 17. And in place of 16, we have defined 19. So if I print this list using the print function, here you can see the values are modified now. So in this way, we can modify the value of each element given in the list. Now, other than modifications, we can also use the del keyword to either delete the list elements, or we can use it to delete the entire list as well. So let us see an example related to that as well. Here you can see this example. We have defined this list with heterogeneous data. So it consists data of different data types. Then to delete any single element, we will use indexing. So first we have defined this del keyword. Then we have defined the name of the list, and we have provided the index value. So we want to delete the element given at index 2. So 0, 1, 2. So we want to delete this manager value from this list. So if I execute this cell and then print the list again, here you can see the manager value is deleted from the list. Now in the same fashion, we can use slicing to delete multiple values. So here again, I'm using this del keyword. Then I am slicing my list from index 1 to 4. So my new list is this now. And now I want to delete the elements starting from index 1 to 4. So it will start from 28, then it will delete this 75.6 which is at index 2, and then it will delete this true value which is at index 3. So index 4 will be excluded, neither do we have that in our list. So if I execute this cell and then print the list again, here you can see only one element is left in my list, which is this James. Now, if we want to delete the entire list, we can do that as well. So in that case, we don't need to define any slicing or indexing. We simply need to define the del keyword, and then we need to simply provide the name of the list. Now, if I execute this cell and then try to print the value of the list, we will get an error. This is because we have deleted the entire list, and the Python interpreter will be unable to find the given list in the memory. So now let's move to our next topic. So now that we understood how we can create and use list in Python, let us discuss some basic list operations. So very first basic list operation is about the length of the list. Now to calculate the length of a list in Python, we simply need to use the len function. Now how we can do that? Let's see a simple example related to that as well. So here you can see an example. In this example, what we have done, first we have defined this department list. Now this department list consists various string type elements. Now if I want to calculate the length of this list, we can use the len function, len, and we need to pass the list name as an argument to this len function. So here you can see I am calculating the length of this list, department list, and we are assigning this value to this length variable. And in the last I am printing the length variable using the print function. Now if I execute this cell, it will return its length. So length of the list is 11. So now remember this thing, the length will start from 1, not from 0. So there are total 11 elements in this list. Now the next basic operation related to list is concatenation. Now if you remember, for string concatenation we were using the plus operator. So for list concatenation also we can use the plus operator. Here you can see an example. We have defined two lists, odd numbers 1 and odd numbers 2. Both of the lists holds odd numbers. Now to concatenate both the list, we will use the plus operator. So here I have defined this variable final list, and we are concatenating both the list using the plus operator, and we are storing it in the final list variable. If I print this final list, all the values from list 1 and list 2 will be concatenated. So here we will see the result. All the values are concatenated to form a single list. Now in the same way, we can also use the multiply operator to replicate the elements of a list. So how we can do that? Let's see an example related to that. So here in this example, we are taking an integer value as input from the user, and then we have defined a simple list with only one element. So the element within this list is Python guides. Now if I multiply the given integer value with this list and then return this value, it will replicate the list value by the given number of integers. So let me execute this cell. So here let me put 3 as my input and hit enter. So here you can see, so Python guides was the single element in the list and it has been replicated 3 times. Now, if there are more elements in the list, then all elements will be replicated. So for example, I have put two more elements in my list. So 28 and 76.7. Now if I execute this cell again, let me put three integer value again. So all the elements will be replicated three times. So Python guides has come three times. In the same way, 28 has come three times, and 76.7 has also replicated three times. Now, other than this basic arithmetic operators, we can utilize the membership operator as well on the list. Now, if you remember, membership operator includes two operators, the in operator and the not in operator. Now, the role of using these membership operators on list is to check the existence of certain value in the given list. So we can understand this thing better with the help of an example. So let us discuss that. So here you can see an example. What we are doing here, first we are taking a state name as an input from the user. Now this state name will be a string type value. Then we have defined this USA underscore states list. Now this list consists some state names. So Georgia is there, Texas is there, New York is there, Florida is there, California is there. Some state names are there in this list now. Then what we are doing, we are using the if else statement, and within this if else what we are doing, we are checking whether the given state name is there in the list or not. Now when we use this thing, it will return boolean value. So it will either return true or it will return false. So if the input value is there in the list, then it will return true, and then this statement will be printed out, yes, this state is in USA. And if this value return false, then this else block will be executed and it will return this, no, this state is not in USA. So let me execute this cell. Now first we need to put any state name. So let's check for Texas first. Let me hit enter. So here is the result, yes, this state is in USA. So let me execute this cell again, and this time let me pass some other value which is not there in the given list. So I have passed this British Columbia as an input. So if I execute this cell, then it will return this thing, that no, this state is not there in USA. So I hope with this the use of membership operator on list is clear to you. Now let's move to our next topic and let's discuss about some built-in list methods. So other than these operations, Python also facilitates certain built-in methods related to list. Now each of these methods have some different functionality. So here you can see the list of methods. So very first is the append method. Now this method is utilized to add an element in the last of the list. Then there is clear. So this clear method will remove all the elements from the list, so it will empty the list. Then there is copy. So the copy method is utilized to create an exact copy of the list. Then there is count. So the count method is used to calculate how many times the given element appears in the list. So it will take element as an argument, then it will return the count of that element from the list. So after count there is another method which is extend. Now the role of this method is to append given set of elements in the last of the list. So if I talk about the difference between extend and append method, the append method takes only one element, and the extend method can take multiple elements as an input and append them in the list. Then there is index method, which can return the index of a specified element from the list. Now after index, there are certain more methods. So after this, there is insert. Now this method is utilized to insert an element at the specified index. After this, there is pop. The role of pop method is to remove the element. Then there is the remove method, which generally deletes the first matching element from the list. Then there is reverse method. So this reverse method will reverse all the elements given in the list. And in the last, we have sort method. So this method is utilized to arrange the elements of the list either in ascending or descending order. So these are the total 11 methods related to list in Python. Now let's discuss certain example related to them. So here you can see the example. First, I have defined a simple list containing different types of elements. So the name of the list is sample list. Let me print this list first. So these are the elements in the list: James, 28, manager, 75.6, true, and James. So James is coming two times. After this, let's first use the append method. Now to use that, what we are taking input from the user and then we are appending that element in the list. So we have taken input from the user, we are storing it in the list underscore element variable. Then we are using the append method on our sample list and then we are passing the input element as an argument to this append method and then we are returning our list back using the print function. So if I execute this cell, so let me put United States as my input and let me hit enter. So here you can see the list. United States has been added in the very last. So this is how we can use the append method. Now let's use the count method. Now the count method will simply return the count of a specific element from the list. So for example, here if we see James is coming 2 times. So in this example, what we are doing, we are taking input from the user. If I execute this cell and pass James as my input, then it will return the count. So count of this element in the list is 2. So James is coming 2 times. So the count function has returned 2. After this, let's use the reverse method. So here we are using the reverse method. Now remember this thing, we are not storing this value anywhere. So when we use this reverse method on our sample list, the modifications will be done in the list itself. So that's why we are simply using the print function to return the sample list. When we execute this cell, you see all the elements in the list are reversed. Previously, United States was the last element and the first element was James. Now the United States is the very first element and James is the very last. In the last, let's use the pop method. So the pop method will simply remove the element from the given index. To use this method, we need to pass an index value as an argument to this method and it will remove that element from the given index. So here what we are doing, we are taking an integer value as an input from the user, then we are storing it in the index variable and then we are using this pop method on our sample list and we have passed this index value. So this method will delete the element from the given index. So let me execute this cell. Let me pass 1 as an input and hit enter. So here you can see the result. So at index 1 there was James and now if we see the result, the James from index 1 is removed. So with this we have come to the end of this tutorial session. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.